Now, as you can appreciate, I probably get asked a ton of times on this channel,
Paul, which is better, Bricks Builder or Elementor Pro?
And while personally I think both of them have strengths and weaknesses, when it comes to dynamic data, one of them is most definitely on top. But which one? Well, stick around as we go through this video and I'm going to show you some of the key differences between the two and why you may want to choose one over the other when you want to go beyond the very basics of what dynamic content offers. So first of all, let me just quickly show you what I have set up when it comes to ACF or advanced custom fields. We've got a post type of jobs, which is a custom post type. If we go into the field groups, you can see we've got job details. And if I open that up, I've got a range of different options, some basic standard ACF fields like text, numbers, and so on. And then we have some more advanced ACF Pro fields, things like the flexible and the repeater region. Let me just go ahead and just demonstrate the basics, how easy it is on both of these to output the data, but also where some of the differences actually lie. Now for this, I'm going to be using the templates on both Bricks and on Elementor Pro. But it doesn't really matter how you set things up. You can use these on pages, posts, wherever you kind of want to use them, including these templates. And let's say now I want to reference some data from ACF. Let's go ahead and add in a new element. And what I'm going to do for this example is I'm going to use the rich text option, but you could use headings if you want to. There's lots of options you can use here. But let's just drag the rich text in, which is basically just a normal text field, which allows us to get some formatting. Once we select it, you'll see on the left-hand side, we've got a basic set of options. Let's go ahead and remove this standard filler text. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the little dynamic data icon. And from there, you can see I've got all the normal things you expect, things like post titles, author, and so on. But we're going to come down to ACF, and inside there, you can see now we can see all of the ACF fields I have created. There are various different types, but what we're going to concentrate on in this example is something really simple, like the salary option. We'll select it, and you see that now drops inside this rich text area a basic placeholder for that particular ACF field. And now what I can do is I can simply come in, I can type whatever I want before it, I can put whatever I want after it, and it's all done inline. So let's go and put in a couple of slashes, and let's go ahead and do the same thing again. This time we're going to put in location, a colon, and we're going to go and reference that other piece of information. So we're going to go back in. This time we choose location. We can format this however we want. So let's make these titles bold. And you can see now what I have is inline information. So it's very easy. So if we take a look above, there's my salary and the information being pulled in. There's my location and the information being pulled in. So I can put content inline directly inside here. This isn't something I can do inside Elementor Pro. Let's go ahead and do the same kind of thing. What we're going to do is we're going to go and add in a text editor. We don't have rich text. We just literally have text. We can drop that. And now you can see we've got the little database icon, which is basically the same as what we have in Bricks Builder. We'll click on it, and you can see again we've probably got a lot of the same kind of information. If we scroll right the way down to ACF field, we can click and open that up, and then I've got to go in and click on the little wrench icon and choose what key I want to use. So we'll start off with our salary. We'll select that. We'll go into the advanced, and we'll just put in what we want, and we'll just click outside. You can see there's our salary being inserted in. Now pay no attention to the design. That's not even important at this point. But the problem I have now is if I want to put in that location, I need to go and duplicate this and then go ahead and start messing about with flex models and so on. Or alternatively, I could use a different way of doing it. So let's get rid of the text editor. This time we're going to go and choose the post info. We'll drop that underneath again, and you can see that pulls in some basic info. And if we take a look on the left-hand side, we can see we can set these up to be horizontally or vertically aligned. And then we have these 4 default boxes, of which I can delete any of these. They're just pulling in basic meta information for this particular post. But what I can also do is I can click inside here, and time for this example is not relevant, so we'll change that over to custom, click on the database icon, scroll right the way down, choose our ACF field, click our wrench icon, choose the option for salary, set our advanced, and you can see that now pulls in the salary information. If we don't want an icon, we can just say none, and that'll give it any spacing. So you could repeat this over and over again, but I think you can already see it's nowhere near as flexible. We have defined specific areas to drop this information in, We can't put it inline. So for me, that is one of those areas that I think Bricks is so much better. Now, there is a way to handle this. You could use dynamic content for Elementor, and you can use their tokens feature, or you can take a look at the new plugin that's coming out very soon, which is basically just the tokens feature taken out into its own plugin. I did a video on that recently, link in the description if you want to check it out. But that does kind of lead me nicely into one of the areas that's kind of lacking inside Elementor. We have such a strong reliance to do anything beyond the basics on third-party tools. Now, that's a strength and a weakness, but I don't like the fact that we have to use third-party tools to do something what I would consider pretty basic of having dynamic data inline in any of the content we want to insert. We have to have these little bits of workarounds which still have their limitations. Now, most other basic features are very similar between the two. We've seen how this inline content is missing on Elementor. However, if we want to do things like just drop in things like featured images, post meta, content, those types of things, it's all included in both of them. Another area where there's a lot of similarities is if you want to insert a post loop. For example, in Elementor Pro, we can go ahead and we can do a search for posts. And we have a post option inside here. You can use the posts, or we have the loop grid, which is the newer feature, which is a lot more powerful. We'll click to add that in, and you can see now that allows us to and customize how we want things to look and so on. So we can create a template from here, or we can go ahead and pick one we already have. I'll just go and choose one I created previously. Just works with the normal template options. Then you see that pulls the template in, and we can now go ahead and see exactly what information is inside here. We can adjust things like the number of columns, adjust the items per page. So for example, I want 4. Do you want to have masonry? Do you want to have equal height? Do you want to have alternative? There's lots of different options inside here. Coming into the query, you can see we can go and choose our sources. So for example, let's choose the jobs option, and that will now pull our jobs in. We can include and exclude, and we can sort things. We can even create custom queries and add pagination. So it is relatively flexible, and the fact that we can easily come in, edit the template, that is the actual template for our post loop item, is a lot more flexible than it used to be. So now I can easily come in and I can adjust all the options inside here. But it's worth bearing in mind we are still limited to the limitations that I just shown you, where if we want to put lists of items in and we want inline content and so on, you can't really do it inside Elementor. So let's hop over to Bricks now and take a look at how we do the same kind of thing inside here. Let's add the elements. We'll do a search for posts, click posts to insert it, and that inserts a post widget. So it looks very similar to what we've just seen. There are some slight differences with this though as well. So if we select our posts, we can come into our layout, for example, and we can adjust this between list, grid, masonry, and so on. Again, you can adjust your columns, add spacing. You can do things like put your first post as full width, kind of cool little things. Then if you want to, you can adjust your query. So if we click on our query, this is defaulting to posts, where we can easily change that over to jobs. And then underneath, we've got, in a very similar fashion to what we had in Elementor, we've got the order by option, we've got the post per page, an offset, and some other information inside here, including things like the include, the exclude, what terms you want to include. But you've also got options for a taxonomy query, a meta query, added infinite scroll, including an Ajax loader, and what you want to do if there are no results being shown. However, what this does is this doesn't give us the option to go ahead and edit the template that's being used for this particular loop. However, we can create those from scratch should we want to. But what you can do with this is you can select your posts, you can come over to your fields, and inside there, we've got a similar kind of setup to what we saw inside the post meta in Elementor. You can add various different fields of information in, and if you expand this out, you can see we've got options inside here for dynamic data. But again, like we saw before, if we want to, we can easily come inside here, put information before or after. So for example, let's say we'll add something new in. We'll go and add a new field in. We'll change this dynamic data, so we'll remove that from there. Click our little dynamic data option, scroll down until we get to our ACF fields, and we'll put our salary inside. Again, we can just drop in a little bit of text. We'll do the same. We'll pop in the location afterwards. Again, we'll just choose some dynamic data and we'll grab the location. And as you can see, that pulls that data in. We can control it. So we can say this is going to be something like a paragraph. You can adjust your styling, your margins, your paragraphs, all those kinds of good things. So there's already a little bit more flexibility if you're using this kind of method. Or like I say, you can completely start from scratch and build out your own custom loop, which is incredibly easy to do. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to simply go ahead and drop a container inside here. So we're going to go and add the plus. We'll just choose a block, and this is going to contain the actual content for our loop item. So it's working in the same way, but it's all done inside the same editor. So in there, we're going to come back over and we can go in and do things like add an image. We'll select the image and we'll set this to be dynamic data, and we'll just scroll until we find the featured image option. Now you can see that's still putting in nothing because it doesn't know what to do just yet, but don't worry, we'll rectify that in a moment. Add in the heading. We'll click to add the heading in. We'll select it again like we've done before. We'll choose post title this time. Get rid of that extra bit of text. But again, anywhere you have this dynamic information, you can easily add more than one piece of dynamic data inside there and put your own content as well as the dynamic data. You can mix and match. There's flexibility there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select our container and we're going to use this as our query loop. All we're going to do is choose use query loop, select that from the options, click on the little query, choose from there we want to use posts. We'll choose the post type of jobs. And again, we've got those normal order by options and so on. So you can use a very similar fashion that we just saw inside Elementor, but we have a lot more flexibility now where we can build this out in any way that we want to. So we can customize all aspects of this. It's pretty cool. And you can just customize everything. Now, at the moment, it looks absolutely rubbish, but it's very easy to then go ahead, use the Flexbox model or grid, whatever you want to use, CSS grid, customize it, adjust the positioning, the layout, the size and scales, and so on. I think that's pretty much demonstrated that there's not a massive difference between the two platforms, and there are workarounds to kind of get most things done. In some areas, it has to be said that Bricks is far more flexible. In Elementor's case, there are some benefits to using Elementor for various different reasons. However, where I think that argument falls apart a little bit is when you want to get into more intermediate to advanced features in ACF Pro. Things like the repeater region, flexible content, those types of things. We don't have any kind of catering for that in Elementor Pro without a third-party plugin, or maybe more in some cases. Let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. Now I have two simple fields set up. I've got a repeater region and I've got a flexible content region. Let's go over into Elementor and let's just say we want to add something from one of those in. Let's just take a look at exactly what we're going to do. So for example, I want to put in a repeater region. So let's go ahead and put something like a container inside our design. And this will be the container for our repeater region in this example. So first of all, where do I go? What do I need to do? Well, let's kind of use a logic and say our repeater region has a couple of fields inside there. So logically, I would have to pull in that field information. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over into our widgets and we're going to say we want to put something like a heading in first of all. So we'll drop our heading in. We'll select it and we'll come over to our database icon. Scroll right the way down to the bottom and open up our ACF fields. Open up the options for our key and you can see we've got show hours and show flexible. I don't have any information in there for the actual fields that I want to reference. So straight out of the box, there's no way for me to grab that information and pull that into my page, my template, whatever I'm using. I have to use a third-party tool. The same thing goes if I want to use the repeater region and or the flexible content fields. I kind of have no option for doing that natively inside Elementor. If we hop over into Bricks Builder, you can see I've already got it set up inside here. I've got these flexible content fields, but let me just show you how this kind of works, how you can actually still access that info. I'm not going to go through the process of building all of these out. I've got videos to both repeater regions and flexible content in Bricks Builder showing you exactly how to set it all up. Again, I'll link those in the description so you can take a look at those should you be interested. So we'll say we're going to start off with that section. So we'll add a section right at the bottom. Just go ahead and add our section in. And our section is going to contain our actual content. So we'll click inside the container and we'll add, like we've done before, we'll add a block inside there that's going to contain various different bits of info. And inside our block, we're going to go ahead and we'll add that title in like I've just shown you. So we'll add a heading in and we'll select our heading, get rid of this filler text and click our lightning bolt, scroll right the way to the bottom. And once we get to the advanced custom field section, you'll see we have flexible content. We also have any repeater region information we may have inside here, things like the office location, day of the week, and so on. So I can access that information directly inside here. For example, let's say the project details, so we'll say we want the project overview, the project title, we'll click. So the heading placed in there, we've got to do one more thing before we can test this out. So we'll select our block, which is the container. We're going to choose a query loop. Click to open up our query and we're going to open this up and you can see there's our ACF repeater and also our flexible content. So all of that data is being referenced and available to us natively inside Bricks Builder. If I choose the ACF flexible content, I can leave everything else as it is and I now should have everything I need to display that content. If we jump over to the front end and take a look at the bottom, you can see Google Campaign, which is the name of that particular piece of data. So now all I would realistically need to do is go back in and add in more content. So I can now say, well, let's go and add in some rich text. We'll select rich text, drop that inside there, select it and remove the content. Click my little database icon and open up ACF. And now I can go ahead and grab the flexible content details. And that will pull the relevant data into there for me. And again, I can save this and take a look at the front end. And there's all the information for it. You can see it's very, very simple, but supported natively inside Bricks Builder. And I think this is the biggest takeaway that you need if you want to work with dynamic data and you want to do things that go beyond the basics and you don't necessarily want to rely upon multiple additional plugins that open up these options which are natively supported inside Bricks Builder. That for me is the biggest bugbear when it comes to Elementor, and this is something that I would love to see them address moving forward to remove our reliance for what I would consider to be core functionality between the two different platforms. But as always, what are your thoughts? Are you someone that uses dynamic data a lot? If you're an Elementor Pro user or if you're a Bricks Builder, what are your findings? What do you think is the shortcomings? Do you mind relying upon third-party tools to give you all that functionality? Let me know in the comment section below because I would love to get your feedback. For me, this is one of the key reasons why I find Bricks Builder to be more exciting as a platform moving forward over what Elementor is doing. Even though they're making strides forward in a lot of areas, I still think dynamic content is something that's been left behind for a very, very long time with no real noticeable improvements in what it actually offers us. But like I say, let me have your comments and feedback in the comment section below. As always, all the applicable links to all the tools that I'm using and all the videos that I've referenced are in the description below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.